it's your girl Jay, and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, thanks so much for sliding through, and if you're returning, welcome back, girl. So if you are new here, then you don't know, but I do a lot of things on my channel. I like to do a lot of hair tutorials, hair inspo, lifestyle, and all of the things. And today we're going to be getting into yet another tutorial. So this is going to be different from some of the tutorials I've done in the past, mainly because we are going to be working with color and we are going to be working with Bodywave bulk hair. So before we go any further, I do want to go ahead and take time and shout out to our sponsor for today, Ywigs. I have worked with them a plethora of times on this channel, and so a lot of you may be familiar with them. They are your go-to for all things wigs, frontals, bulk braiding hair, and crochet hair, all the things. So make sure that you do check them out, and again, thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. So for this style, they did send us over 6 bundles of their Bodywave hair, 3 in the color 430 and 3 in the color 8. Now I've never heard of the color 8, but girl, when I tell you 8. So this is going to be the color 8. This is much more of like a cooler brown like color. I think that I'm actually in love with this. This is perfect if you already have like sandy brown hair or are trying to achieve that look. I don't know if the color of the lights is doing it any justice, but this is like a super cool color. I think it looks so good on like my skin. And then they did send over the color 4 and 30 mix in the Bodywave texture as well. So both of these are going to be in the inch 20 inches. Now for today's style, we only used 4 bundles, but I do see how you would use 6 or maybe 4.5-ish if you wanted it a little bit longer. For reference, I am 5'3", and this is where it lands on me. I didn't cut it or anything because I do like it to have like that little feathered look on it. And we did use very minimal braiding hair. In fact, of the pack of braiding hair for this style, we only used about 2 bundles of the pack of the braiding hair. And I'll have a picture or something down in the description for reference. And I'll get more into those things when we talk about products and all the things that you're gonna need. So this is what they did send over for us to play with today. So the style that we went for is more of like a boho look, of course incorporating the different colors and the highlights and the lowlights, and we did do it in the size medium. Medium just means that we have 5 rows across the top and then 2 rows across the bottom, so like below the ear. Now this is going to vary per braid, like with different braiders, but for me this is going to be my size medium, leaving us with about 62 braids if you follow like my braiding map, and I'll have that here as well. So yeah, if you want to see how I achieve this look, make sure that you do stay tuned. Let's go ahead and get into all the products and everything that you're going to need now. So for the products and everything, like I said, they are going to be listed down in the description below. But just for starters, you are going to need 4 bundles if you want to achieve this look and fullness of the Bodywave hair in the inch 20 inches. And then of course I use 2 bundles of the 40-30 mix, and then I use 2 bundles of the color 8. So you're gonna need that. 1 pack of braiding hair. I did it in the color 4. I did use my braiding rack, and this is actually what it looks like once it's nice and full. Quick tip, that's how you can tell how the hair is actually gonna look in your head. Look how it looks on your braiding rack, and then that's how it's gonna look in your head basically. And then I did use my 3-way mirror, which is so essential. I won't be able to see the full circumference of my head without it. I used some Shine and Jam Magic Fingers, and what else? I think I used a rat tail comb. You know, the regular things that you need to do your hair, and that was pretty much it that we needed for today's style. If I forgot anything, it's gonna be listed down in the description below. And yeah, I think we're good to go. Let's go ahead and get into it. And now I know in this video I didn't really emphasize on the parting method just because I have done so on so many other videos. So throughout this video, I'm gonna have some of my previous videos across the screen that I work with Ywigs that you can go to if you want to see more in-depth tutorial on like the parting method and such. Let's go ahead and get into the parting portion now. So I said that in this video I didn't want to emphasize too much on how to do the parting method just because I've done it so many times, but this is what my parts look like. I feel like pre-parting definitely cuts down on time, and it helps you make sure like everything is nice and neat before you start braiding. Don't wait until you do a few rows to find out that your rows are not neat. And so for the size medium, like I was saying, we have 5 rows across the top of my head, so 10 rows from ear to ear, and then below the ear we have 2 rows. And so as you see, everything looks really nice and neat.
So I'm starting the actual tutorial for this at the top of the head just because the view is a whole lot better. And as you see, I'm not putting on too much gel. I've learned that, too much gel can be overkill and it can mess up your grip a lot of times. So I use the gel to kind of mold the row before I start parting. The top of the head is obviously the most important because it's what everybody's going to see. So I'm going to go ahead and start parting, keeping on with my brick layering, and then just putting a small dab of gel in between each part just to keep it, out the way and keep it parted. So for starters, I'm going to start my braid just like normal, slitting that section into 3. That's just like normal with any braid that you're doing. Now the difference is I'm not going to be adding any boho hair to the root. I only do that when it's like super curly hair or super wavy hair, but with the body wave hair it hangs low, so I'm not going to add it to the root, and it is a different color than my natural hair color. So to begin, we are going to do 2 full braid motions before we start putting any of the braiding hair in there, just to get a nice good grip. This is also going to make sure that the base is nice and flat and everything looks cohesive. Have you ever seen braids when the bases look different? Some of them start off small, some of them start off thicker. Now the density of your hair is going to make your base look different, but just start off like this and you'll be good to go. So this is going to be the size of the braiding hair that we add in each time, and I like to add my braiding hair in increments of 3. That keeps it all nice and neat, the same size and all of that. So in between each time I add in another piece of braiding hair, I do 1 full braid motion and then just add in the additional piece of hair. Now, if you want your hair to be longer, then you are going to do this again, but once you get to like the middle of the braid. But because I don't want the braids to be super, super long, this is the only time I'm going to add in the braiding hair. So now that I've added in the 3rd piece, you're going to see where I'm going to just go ahead and braid down a little bit before I add in the first piece of human hair. And I normally like to do that after I've already flipped the braid over to a more comfortable position. You want to make sure you're braiding in whatever position is more comfortable for you, because you want your grip to be nice and tight. If you're not comfortable with your grip, that's how the braid can get jumbly. It can look all, raggedy or whatever. So I'm going to flip the braid now. And then as soon as I flip the braid and get everything smoothed out, I'm going to go ahead and start feeding in my first piece of human hair. So right here, you're going to see I'm taking the human hair and flipping around the back side and using my thumb and my pointy finger to kind of anchor it. And so you want to right here squeeze really, really tight, because you don't want the hair to like slip out or look like jumbly. And after you do like 1 or 2 braid motions, you can kind of loosen your grip just a little bit. But as you're braiding, pull down, like pull away from your hair so that the braid is nice and like flat. If you try to like keep your hand close to your head, that's where you're going to see it's going to kind of jumble. And so I went down a little bit, and now we're going to go ahead and add in another piece of the human hair. Now you can add in as much or as little as you would like. I am going for a little bit more of a fuller look, so I'm going to add in a bit. And as you see here, there is a blunt side of the human hair that's left in there, so you want to make sure that you're kind of tucking the hair as you go as well, just so those blunt ends don't kind of stick out, giving you like that frayed look. I mean, you can trim it off later, but I prefer to just tuck it as I go. And that little tug that you saw me do was just making sure that my grip is nice and tight and I'm pulling away from the hair. So you see my head is like tilted to the side. That is partially because I'm tilting it, and the other reason is because I'm pulling, like I'm tugging on my hair as I braid. Keep on following this process as you go down, and if you find yourself having a lot of frays, that's fine. Just clip it off at the end. Don't clip it off at the end. It doesn't really matter. You won't be able to really see it. And yeah, so you just keep on going down, and then of course I'm going to show you guys how I do the ends. So in the last braid, I showed you how to do the traditional overhead, like over the head method, but now this is the method that you're going to do for the braids on the sides of your head when you can't really reach, over your head to the other side. So in this method, the hair is never really going to go below my knuckles. it's always going to stay like in my fingertips. I split it into 3, and I'm going to keep on gripping tight as I can, but never letting it go below my knuckles. And so as we begin to feed in the braiding hair, it's the same way as before. You're just not going to let it go below the knuckle, and you're going to roll. You see that roll that we just did? Kind of roll the hair in there. That roll keeps the hair from like separating. Have you ever braided your hair and felt like the hair was like separating as you go and it gets kind of like jumbled up? That roll keeps it all together. So after we've done that, you're just going to add in that last piece of hair just like normal. And then once we're done, I'm going to flip the hair to a more comfortable position, just like I do in the other method. You want to have a good like inch of hair braided down before you start adding in the human hair. And this is just for this style. Of course, if it's curlier hair, then you can add it in sooner. But for this style, we're going to have a good inch before we add in any of the human hair. Now that it's flipped over, it's a whole lot easier. We're going to add the human hair right up in the back side and then just begin braiding down. And trust me, I know feeding in the hair and actually getting it to stay and look how you want is the hardest part. So here I'm just showing you how I do it a few more times just for practice. If you feel like you've seen enough, then definitely just skip by and I'll show you how to do the ends. But this is just for the girls who just need to see it a few more times. So there is a method to the madness when it comes to the ends, but you do have options. You can dip the hair in hot water and curl the ends, which you'll be, having the braiding hair at the ends, or you can add in the human hair. And so I'm adding in the human hair for the ends, and then I'm going to knot it, and this is how I'm doing it. As you saw, I just fed in a piece of human hair, and then I braided it down about an inch. And now I'm going to go ahead and add in another piece of the human hair and continue to braid it all the way down. Now there will be fraying, but you can cut that off at the end. And so the reason I added in the pieces inches apart is so that it has a more consistent braid size. It doesn't go from being a small braid to like a really thick braid. That keeps it nice and clean looking. And so for the ends, we are going to wrap the braiding hair around the human hair 3 times. And by the time you get to the end of the braiding hair, you don't really have to cut it off because it's such a small piece, you can't even tell. And so the human hair would unravel if you wrap the human hair, so that's why you want to do the braiding hair, and it's not going to unravel at all. And so in the end, this is what our braid looks like, and I will come back when it's time for the final look.
Okay, so we are officially all done. I did go ahead and do my makeup and everything just because, I like to see the whole look come together. I'm about to go ahead and do these edges. Now, normally I don't go in with hot tools to do my edges, but just for the look, we're going to do it today. I put the flat iron on the lowest setting, and I'm just going to curl back. All right. And I didn't leave out too much edge on the side just because over time that part comes out anyway. So if you take out too much in the beginning, you kind of lose time on your hairstyle. It starts getting more fuzzy in the front like too soon. And I'm not even like an edge master. I have no idea how to do this. Alright, so this is the final look. As you see, I'm loving like the honey blonde kind of feel to it. I have to change the lighting just so you guys can actually see like the true color because I know it looks a little bit warmer on here. Let me show you the difference. So this is the best way to kind of show like the true color. The color 4 and the 30 made it warm, and then the color 8 made it more like a little cooler, so it gives you like a more neutral color, and I'm absolutely loving it. I feel like when you make it neutral, you can wear both gold and silver, versus like when it's too warm, you know what I mean, it's like awkward to wear like silver. So I feel like I can wear either one now that I've kind of like cooled it down a little bit. Anyway, Bodywave is definitely going to be your go-to if you're looking for like, you know, that really fun, really like kind of like carefree look or whatever. Absolutely stunning, stunning, stunning results. I feel like if I could change anything, I probably would have used maybe a color 30 for the braiding here and not a color 4, because I did go color 4. So that's probably going to be the only difference. But if you don't know really how to tuck hair, then that doesn't even make it, that don't even worry about that. But yes, these are our results. I feel like total time, it took me a long time just because I just haven't been rushing really. I haven't been rushing, so I think in total it took me about like 8 hours to complete. But yes, absolutely stunning results. Thanks again to Ywigs for sponsoring today's video. I'm gonna have all the details on what I used, how much I used, and what you're gonna need, and all those things down in the description below. And if you want to keep up with me and see how I rock this style throughout the week, make sure that you do follow me on socials, and those are going to be listed for you here. All right, girl. Well, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.